Let's talk about the penalties. Parang awan nyo na, mag-file on time kasi may surcharge, 1 day late payment, 25% surcharge. Sir, paano kung wala kang babayaran? Kung wala kang babayaran, di wala kang surcharge. Saan mo yung multiply yun? Sa 0. Pero meron kang failure to file information return, 1,000 pesos. Hindi ka nag-file o kaya na late ka mag-file, 1,000 pesos. But shall not exceed 25,000 for the calendar year. And then meron kang compromise penalty din. No? Ano yan eh? First offense, second offense, yung third offense, kulong pa na. Then deficiency and delinquency interest kung may payable. 25% surcharge kung failure to file any return. Okay. Laging ganoon yan. Failure to file a return or failure to pay. Failure to pay the deficiency tax. May binayaran ka pero may deficiency. Ibang usapan yung wala kang binayaran. No? Ito, may filing, may payment. Yung isa, failure to file, malamang walang payment yon. No? Failure to file. Ito yung na-late ka lang. Na-late ka lang mag-file. Failure to file any return and pay the tax due thereon as required under the provisions of this code or rules and regulations on the date prescribed. Hindi ka nakapag-file, pero hindi mo sinasadya. Kasi pag sinadya mo, papasok ka dito sa 50%. Yan. Ngayon, ba't sinabi kong na-late lang? Kasi nung nalaman mo na hindi ka pala nag-file ka naman. Okay. Ngayon, yung second bullet, nag-file pero sa maling Internal Revenue Officer. Halimbawa, ang business mo nasa Cubao. Nag-file ka sa Makati. Ginagawa mo dun. Mali, di ba? Mali. Pero hindi ka naman willful at wala namang false or fraudulent return. Nag-file ka eh. 25% lang. Malaki din yan. 1/4 din yan. And then meron, nag-file ka, nagbayad ka, kulang yung binayad mo. So meron kang deficiency tax, 25% sa deficiency. Then failure to pay the full or part of the amount of tax shown on any return required to be filed. And then 50% surcharge kung willful or false or fraudulent. Now when we say false or fraudulent, ito yung prima facie evidence. 30% under declaration of the revenue. 30% over declaration of the deductions. Relevant ba yan? Oo naman. Kasi kung ikaw ay na prima facie evidence of a false or fraudulent return, the prescriptive period is 10 years. Ano yung prescriptive period? O, pupunta tayo dyan mamaya. About assessment. No? Pwede ka pa rin singilin even after 10 years na nakalimutan mong magbayad. No, na hindi ka nagbayad pala. No? Kasi after 10 years, they prescribe na yan. Now, interest, kung meron namang deficiency and delinquency, babayad ka ngayon ng interest. Na interest should be double the effective legal interest. The legal interest is 6%. So double nun, 12%. So the current interest for tax purposes is 12%. So 12% for the unpaid tax, that is your deficiency interest. 12% for the deficiency tax due interest and surcharge. That would be delinquency. Ano ba yung kaibahan yan? Deficiency, hanggat wala pang assessment. Okay? Deficiency pa yon. May assessment na binigyan ka ng deadline, hindi ka nagbayad. No, may pinadalan ka na ng FAD, ng final assessment. And then, meron kang demand letter. Tapos hindi ka nagbayad. So after the deadline set by the BIR, delinquency interest ang tawag doon. So napapakinggan nyo na, may assessment, no? May assessment. Assessment na yan. No? Yan yung audit, no? Mga tax audit. So na-audit ka, nabigyan ka ng FAD, nabigyan ka ng demand letter. Kasi hindi ka nagbayad. So, hanggang dun sa deadline na binigay sa'yo, deficiency interest lang yun. Pero dahil hindi ka na nagbayad, kahit may demand, delinquency interest ang tawag doon. Okay. Dati, sabay na ini-impose yan. Ngayon, ano na, shall not be imposed simultaneously. So, let's have an example. Si Mr. A may deficiency na 1 million. Okay? Deficiency, muna, nasa yung deficiency, yung 1 million na basic tax due, papatungan natin ng surcharge na 25%. Okay, that's 250,000. Laki, di ba? Hindi ka nakapagbayad. And then, yung 12% deficiency, kasi sabi dito, unpaid siya despite the lapse of June 30. Okay? And then, merong payment, yung June 30, that is the deadline for payment stated in the notice and demand issued by the commissioner. May demand din commissioner eh. May final assessment na yan eh. So June 30 hanggang June 30, deficiency interest pa lang yan. So how many days? 442 days from kailan siya hindi nagbayad? Malamang ano yan? April 15. Income tax eh. Deadline April 15. So from April 15 to June 30, 2022, okay, pero titingnan mo, taxable year 2020. So April 15, 2021 ang filing. Tama? Okay. Hanggang June 30, 2022. That is 442 days. So April 16 pala. April 16, kasi deadline is 15. So late ka na starting April 16. Hanggang June 30, 442 days. So 12% ng 442 days is 145,000. So itong 12% sa 1,000 yan, ay sa 1 million yan naka-base. Okay? 1 million. The tax base. So pagsamahin natin yung 1 million plus the surcharge and interest, 395,000. Now, yung 1,395,315, yan ay yung magiging basis ng 12% delinquency interest. Binigyan ka ng deadline, June 30, so from July 1 hanggang sa date of payment, delinquency interest na yung mag-a-apply. 12% pa rin naman. Okay? Times 12% times 225 days over 365 days. So 103,215 and 9 centavos. So the total amount due on February 10, 2023 is 1,498,513 and 16 centavos. Kita mo na yung 1 million mo nadagdagan ng 500,000 almost. Kasi hindi ka nagbayad. Pinatagal mo pa. Compromise penalty, may schedule ng compromise penalty. So may first mistake, may second mistake, then may mga compromise penalties na monetary. So the amount of money paid by the taxpayer. So ito sana, subject ka sana sa criminal prosecution, pero bayaran mo na lang para hindi ka nakasuhan ng criminal case. Remedies of the government, assessment. When we say assessment, na-file na yung return, and then evaluate ni BIR kung tama yung return na ginawa ni taxpayer. So dun na malalaman ni BIR kung may kulang, diba? Kung may deficiency. Kung may deficiency, magde-demand na siya. Pag nag-demand na siya at hindi pa kayo nagbayad, dun na pumapasok yung delinquency. Okay? So dapat yung assessment, sabi ni BIR, o meron kang tax due, the next remedy, kung ayaw magbayad, collection. We have administrative procedure, distraint and levy and garnishment, kasama dyan sa distraint, and judicial action, civil and criminal. Prescriptive periods, 3 years and 5 years sa normal return. Normal meaning walang fraud. Okay? Walang fraud. 3 years. Hanggang 3 years ka lang pwedeng i-assess. Paglampas ng 3 years, wala nang assessment dapat. Sa collection, 5 years. So after assessment, okay, pasok sa 3 years, nag-issue na siya ng demand letter, meron ka ng final, assessment, and demand, and then meron kang demand letter, dapat 5 years makolekta na ni BIR. Kasi kung hindi pa yan makolekt ni BIR after 5 years, then wala na kayo. Prescribed na. Hindi ka na makakolekt. Meaning, wala nang habol sa iyo si BIR. Kung may waiver, edi the waiver will be in effect. Period agreed upon. Hindi natin alam. 10 years, 20 years, bahala kayo. Mag-agree kayo sa buhay nyo. Ngayon, yung collection after assessment, may collection sa akin 5 years. Okay? Kung fraudulent yung return, yari na. 10 years ang assessment. Kung may assessment. Ang tagal, di ba? Sa collection, 5 years. Same, di ba? Ngayon, kung walang sa assessment, kung hindi nag-assess yung BIR, diretso sa court, nag-file lang kaso. Evasion daw, yan. No prescription. Kasi sa court siya pumunta. Pero yung collection na yon, diretso, 10 years lang. Dapat na-collect na within 10 years. Pero ang 10 years na yon ay after judgment. Time of assessment, if the return was filed on or before the deadline, within 3 years after the last day prescribed by the law. For example, the deadline sa income tax return ay April 15. Nag-file siya January 1. January 1, ready na. No? Nagko-compute na siya noong December 31. No? Habang nagpuputukan, no, pagdating ng January 1, sinabit niya yung kanyang income tax return. So ano ang reckoning period ng prescription? Hindi January 1, kundi April 15. April 15 ang reckoning period. So dahil ang deadline ay April 15, starting April 16, yun ang day 1. April 16, day 1, and then so on. 3 years. Ngayon, paano kung na-late ka? Ay sabi natin, may surcharge ka, may penalty ka, may interest ka, pero may prescriptive period yung mga yon. If the return was filed beyond or after the deadline within 3 years from the date of such filing. Deadline is April 15, pero nag-file ka August 15. So magka-count siya from August 15. No? August 16 would be the day 1 and so on and so forth hanggang 3 years. So kaya sinasabi natin dyan yung prescriptive period ay within 3 years after the last day prescribed by law or from the date of such filing, whichever comes later. All right. So yung 10-year period of assessment shall be computed from 10 years after the discovery. Hindi filing, discovery, sabi ng BIR. After 20 years, sabi ng BIR, na-discover namin. Ayun. So after 20 years, doon na-discover, doon palang magka-count yung 10 years. Waiver of period of assessment. So basta present yung mga yan, may valid waiver. Absent yung isa, invalid ang waiver. Period of collection, you have 3 year as assessment, laging 5 years, di ba? Pag period of collection, laging 5 years. Isa lang naman yung nag 10 years dito Yung itong without assessment, no? Nagte 10 years din yan. So mayroon tayong remedy sa collection, ayaw mo magbayad, kailangan natin ng remedy kasi nga may prescriptive period din yung collection. Hindi lang assessment ang may prescriptive period, even collection. So mayroon tayong distraint, levy, and garnishment. We have constructive and actual distraint. Actual, physically taken. Constructive, not physically taken. We also have judicial remedy, the civil action, and the criminal action. Now, supposedly, pag nag-file ka ng criminal action, normalan. Nag-file ka ng criminal action, kasama doon yung civil action. So the basis of the civil liability is the criminal action. Yun yung normal. Pero sa tax, baliktad. Because tax is a civil liability. And because of non-payment of the civil liability, doon nagkaroon ng criminal action. Nagkaroon ng criminal liability. So baliktad dito, yung criminal nag-arise from the civil. So how do you enforce sa civil action? So by filing a civil case for the collection of the sum of money, or by filing an answer to the petition for the review filed by the taxpayer with the Court of Tax Appeals. And then we have criminal action. Any person convicted of a crime under the code shall be liable for the payment of the tax and be subject to the penalties imposed. Bawal ang injunction sa collection of tax. Bawal ang injunction. Wala pala dito yung exception. Pero may exception dyan. Sikat, di ba? Si Manny Pacquiao. Hindi naman porket si Manny Pacquiao. Kundi, kung nabalitaan nyo yung kay Manny Pacquiao, billions yung sinisingil sa kanya ni BIR. Ngayon, nag-file siya ng injunction. Eh, sabi ni BIR, teka, Section 218 of the National Internal Revenue Code, no injunction. Di ba? Except ano yan eh, except the Court of Tax Appeals and the Supreme Court, palamang. Panalo si Pacquiao, kahit meron kang Section 218, panalo si Pacquiao. Kasi, ang nangyari naman doon, eh, madadamage naman yung taxpayer. Eh, kukunin mo na yung property ko lahat. As if kinuha mo na, di ba? Nangungulekta ka pa lang naman ng tax, babayaran natin yan. Pero, kung kukunin mo na, ililevy mo na, or i-garnish mo na lahat ng properties ko, yung bank accounts, and then na-distrate na yung mga personal properties, then in effect, nasingil mo na rin ako. So may damage on the part of the taxpayer. And then there's no other remedy. So yun, granted yung petition for injunction ni Pacquiao. Kasi hindi ka naman nangongolekt ng tax, di ba? Para pakusahan yung citizens. Kundi yung collection ng tax ay for the benefit of the citizens. Okay? Anyways, the general rule, no injunction. Now, may exception, syempre, no? Kung nadadamage na yung taxpayer. So, example, internal revenue taxes shall be assessed within how many years? 3 years. Pag falls, 10 years. Kapag sa collection naman, by distraint or levy or by proceeding in court, how many years? 5 years. Okay? Kapag fraudulent return, ilang years nga? Kapag fraudulent return, ang assessment ay 10 years. And then, so kung 10 years yan, kailan mag-start? Ang reckoning period ay discovery. So na-discover siya noong June 10, 2020. So dun mag-start. Plus 10, 2030. Fraudulent return, ang tanong naman dito ay collection. So kung may assessment, yan titingnan mo. Kung may assessment, then 5 years yung collection. Tama? 5 years. Pero kung wala kasing assessment, 10 years yung collection. Ms. J filed an income tax return. Kailan? Noong March 10, 2021. So advance. Advance siya nag-file kasi April 15 ang deadline. Ngayon, may deficiency siya. Nakita ng BIR, may deficiencies siya. Na-issue yung deficiency assessment noong April 10, 2022. Which has become final. So when is the last day for the BIR to collect? So sabi natin 5 years yan. So lagay mo 2022 plus 5 years. Which of the following statement is not true? Tax assessment is necessary to criminal prosecution? Hindi naman, di ba? Kasi mayroon tayong mga compromise. Mayroong willful attempt to defeat and evade payment of taxes. So nakita natin mayroon tayong collection without assessment. Di ba? Yun yung walang prescription. So walang prescription yung assessment. Kasi nga wala namang assessment. Paano mo lalagyan ng prescription yung assessment? So yun. Mayroon tayong court proceeding agad na walang tax assessment yun. Tama? Walang tax assessment yun. Warrant of distraint may be issued against the taxpayer owing delinquent taxes on his, so pag distraint, personal property. Kapag naman the seizure by the government of personal property, distraint nga yan, pag personal property. Constructive distraint, no? Kailan mapaplace sa constructive distraint? All of the above. What is the distinction between actual and constructive? Pag actual, may physical taking. Pag constructive, walang physical taking. Yung pinagbabawalan ka lang. Bawal mo ibenta yan. Pero hindi namin kukunin. Then that is constructive distraint. Which of the following is subject to garnishment? Pag sinabi natin garnishment, yung property hawak ng third party, like bank account. Yung cash mo nakadeposit sa bangko. So yung bangko, yung account mo sa bangko, yung i-garnish. Warrant of levy, ito naman ay para sa real property, yung levy. Which of the following is not a remedy for the collection of internal revenue taxes? Lahat yan ay remedy. No? Restraint, levy, civil, or criminal action. The following remedies for the collection of the taxes are available to the government except inquiry. Kasi dapat merong consent. The remedy of restraint of personal property and levy on realty may be repeated. That is correct. No court shall have the authority to grant an injunction. That is correct. That's the general rule. Kung may remedy ang government, may remedy din naman ang taxpayer. Like protest. So this is the procedural process ng protest. Now, remember, kailangan mo na may LOA. Kailangan mag-audit. After audit, may informal conference. Then saka mag-i-issue ng PAN or the Preliminary Assessment Notice. Yung PAN, pwede ka mag-reply sa PAN. No? May notice, so mag-reply ka. Sorry, I beg to disagree. Now, within 15 days. Ngayon, ito si BIR, ayaw maniwala sa'yo, mag-issue siya ng Final Assessment Notice. Yan ang ipoprotest mo. So, within 30 days, kailangan mag-protest ka. Request for reconsideration or request for investigation. Protest. Okay? Within 30 days. And then, syempre, maghihintay ka ng decision ni BIR. So, si BIR, pwede mong hintayin yung decision niya for how long? Kahit umabot mo ng 5 years yan. Ito yung may decision ni BIR. Kahit i-prescribe yung assessment niya. Pati collection niya, umabot ng 5 years. Magpe-prescribe yung collection niya, dapat sumagot siya. Or, within 180 days, dapat makapag-decide siya. Yun yung mahalaga doon 180 days. Counting. Kasi, kung hindi siya makapag-decide within 180 days, you can go to CTA, to the Court of Tax Appeals, within 30 days from the end of the 180 days. That is just your option number 2. Yung 180 days. Because option 1 is to wait for the decision of the BIR. Maghintay ka hanggat gusto mo. Pero kung hindi ka makapaghintay, then check 180 days. Pag walang decision, you can go to the Court of Tax Appeals. Okay. And then talo ka sa CTA division. Eh di mag-motion for reconsideration ka naman. And then, after the motion for reconsideration, you go now to N-Bank of the CTA. Lahat sila. Talo ka pa rin sa CTA N-Bank. Punta ka na sa Supreme Court. Tinalo ka sa Supreme Court. Magbayad ka ng tax. Magbayad ka ng assessment mo, talo ka na eh. Saka pa pupunta. Pag hindi ka nagbayad, sa kulungan ka na mapupunta. When PAN is not required, pag may mathematical accuracy, mathematical error, may discrepancy, kita-kita mo naman. Sabi mo, withheld mo, nasan yung remitted mo? Parang mathematical error din lang yan. Nagkamali ka ng sinulat. Nag-refund o nag-claim ka ng refund or tax credit. The excise tax due on accessible articles hindi bayad. And the article locally purchased or reported by an exempt person such as but not limited to the following. Oops. Ngayon, meron tayong, after the PAN, you have the formal letter of demand or the final assessment notice. The FAN, not the PAN. FLD or the FAN. Final assessment notice and FLD, the formal letter of demand. That's the demand letter. Dapat yung demand letter, may facts, may applicable law, rules and regulations, jurisprudence, and at the same is his final decision. Yun yung laman ng formal letter of demand. Okay? Requisites dapat nakasulat. Assessment contains not only computation but meron ding demand for the payment, and an assessment must be served on and received by the taxpayer. Now, pag nakatanggap ka ng FLD or ng FAN, mag-protest ka. Now, how do you protest? Pwede ka mag-request ng reconsideration. Sabihin mo, teka, nagkamali ka ata ng evaluation of the evidence I already presented. Ngayon, kung sabi mo, hindi mo naman tiningnan yung mga evidence, hindi mo tiningnan, then you can request for re-investigation. May difference yan, ha? Pero kailangan mo gawin yan within 30 days. Now, pag hindi ka nag-dispute, edi final, bayaran mo na lang. Remedies in case of denial of protest. Denied ang protest. Nagsulat ka papunta kay BIR. Denied. Parang yung nagawa kong protest, denied. Anong magagawa ko ngayon? In case of denial, may dalawa tayong options dyan, di ba? Pero yung options na yan, depende kung sino yung nag-deny. Pwede kasing denied by the commissioner, ay mataas yun. Di ba? Or pwede namang denied ng kanyang authorized representative. Okay. Now, kung yan ay denied by the commissioner, wala ka nang ibang pupuntahan. Punta ka na sa CTA. Court na. Court of Tax Appeals within 30 days. Okay? Kung denied by the commissioner. Now, what if denied by the representative? You have two options now. You can go to the court directly. That's a nice one. Or you can elevate the protest to request for consideration to the commissioner. Ayaw mo muna pumunta sa court. E di, punta ka muna sa commissioner. That is administrative appeal. Okay. So, pwede kang pumunta sa court, pwede kang pumunta muna sa commissioner. Pero kung yung commissioner na ang nag-deny, wala ka nang ipapupuntahan. Court na yon agad. So, within 30 days. Okay. Okay, in case of inaction, ano yung ibig sabihin ng inaction? 180 days na. No? Kalahating taon na, wala pa ring decision. So, anong pwede mong gawin? Pwede mong hintayin kung sanay ka namang maghintay ng forever, or pwede ka nang pumunta sa CTA. Okay. Sir, paano kung ang inihintay kong decision ay sa authorized representative? 180 days na, wala pa rin. Can I elevate this to the commissioner? No, walang sinabing ganun ang tax code. Okay? Kung in action, dalawa lang. Pwede kong hintayin yung decision, kung sino man ang magdi-decide, the commissioner or the representative. And then, pwede ka mag-appeal sa CTA within 30 days from the expiration of the 180-day period. So, isa lang yung chance na pwede kang mag-elevate papunta sa commissioner. That is when the representative of the commissioner denied your protest. Okay? A PAN shall not be required in the following. The taxpayer failed to pay the correct income tax. Exception pala. Taxpayer Andy received on January 3, 2020, a PAN from the BIR stating that he had 15 days to comment. 8 days pa lang, nag-issue na ng fund. Pwede ba yon? Invalid. Kasi dapat bigyan ka ng 15 days to reply. So, si Mr. Alvarez nakatanggap ng deficiency tax assessment containing only the computation. Okay. Di masaya ka dyan kasi invalid yung fund. Di ba? Dapat mayroong facts and the law upon which the assessment is based. Hindi nga lang, ayan dapat may demand pa nga. So, taxpayer received the final assessment notice on February 1, 2020. Nag-file ng protest February 5. Ang bilis. Naka-ready yung protest. Diba? Kailan ka pwedeng mag-file ng protest? Within 30 days. Okay. Then the BIR decision denying the protest was received on July 5, 2020. So when is the last day to appeal? To the Court of Tax Appeal. So 30 days. Diba? 30 days from the receipt of the decision. And that's August 4, 2020. So assessment shall become final, executory, and demandable if lahat yan. No? Itong sa 60 days, ano yan? Mahalaga yan kung request for reinvestigation. Kailangan masubmit mo within 60 days yung mga additional evidence na gusto mo. So nag-file ka ng protest, then within 60 days from the filing of the protest, kailangan na-submit mo yung supporting docs. Compromise taxes. Compromise means reduction Hindi ito compromise penalty. Iba yun ha, iba yung compromise penalty. Ito compromise as a remedy of the taxpayer. Hindi ito yung penalty. Compromise of taxes means reduction of the taxes. Kailan pwedeng mag-compromise? Reasonable doubt as to the validity of the claim against the taxpayer. Okay. Financial position of the taxpayer demonstrates a clear inability to pay the assessed tax. Cases which cannot be compromised, andyan yung criminal already filed in court. Collection cases filed in court. Okay? So cases which cannot be compromised, withholding tax, criminal tax fraud, criminal violations. Yan. Limits 10% kapag financial capacity. A minimum compromise rate equivalent to 10%. Sa other cases, 40% yung kanyang power. Now, 40% of the basic assessed tax. Abatement, cancel the entire amount. So, kailan pwedeng mag-cancel? The tax or any portion thereof appears to be unjustly or excessively assessed. And or the administration of collection of costs do not justify the collection of the amount due. So, ito naman yung recovery of tax erroneously or illegally collected. Ano ba meron dito? Nagbayad ka ng tax. Oops, mali pala. Mali pala, ba't ka nagbayad? Yan. Problema yan, di ba? Anong gagawin mo ngayon? Nasobrahan ng bayad. O, overpayment. Yari. So, pwede ka mag-refund. Pwede ka na mag-refund. So, di ba sa income tax, di ba sa income tax, meron doong refund or carry-over. So, pag carry over mo yan, tapos ang usapan. Forever mo pwedeng i-carry over yan hanggat kaya. Ngayon, kung gusto mo mag-refund, the refund must be filed within 2 years from the date of payment, regardless of any supervening cost. Within 2 years. Nasobrahan ka ng bayad, refund mo within 2 years. Ngayon, anong meron sa within 2 years na yan? Kasi sabi ng tax code, dapat initially, merong administrative claim for refund. So mag-file ka muna sa BIR. Punta ka sa BIR, mag-file ka doon, dala ka ng letter. Meron ding BIR Form 1914. Pwede mo gamitin yun. No? Attach mo doon sa letter mo. No? Tapos maglagay ka ng mga supporting documents. Nagpa-file ka sa BIR. Mag-a-apply ba dito yung 180 days? Hindi. I-refund ang pinag-uusapan natin eh. Recovery of tax erroneously or illegally collected. Hindi mag-a-apply dito yung 180 days. Kasi yung 180 days, nasa protest yun. Wala yun. Malayo yun sa provision na to. Ito, refund. Nag-refund ka. 2 years yung usapan dito. 2 years, dapat nakapag-file ka sa CTA. But before you file, dapat nakapunta ka muna sa BIR. Okay? Ngayon, pag pumunta ka sa BIR, sumagot yung BIR, then you need to, sumagot si BIR, nag-deny, problema yon. Kasi kung pinagbigyan ka, pinag-refund ka, di masaya ka na. Pero pag nag-deny, may denial si BIR, then you go to CTA. Kailan ka pupunta na CTA? Within 30 days from the denial. Ito yan ha. Within 30 days from the denial, pupunta ka na sa CTA. But within the 2-year period. So mga cases dyan, halimbawa, day 1 pa lang, no? Nag-file ka na ng refund. Tapos sumagot siya. Sino siya? Si BIR. May denial, no? Busted ka. Denied. Within 2 years, within 2 years. Within 30 years, kailangan mo na mag-file sa CTA. Eh sir, mahaba pa yung 2 year eh. Wala. Wala yun. Wala na yun. Dapat mag-file ka na within 30 days. Kasi andyan na yung denial. That's the rule. Andyan na yung denial, mag-file ka within 30 days. Sa CTA. Hindi mo na pwedeng ubusin yung 2 years. Ngayon, ang nangyari, ang isang case, 1 day na lang. Tama ba? Hindi naman ba yata 1 day. 2 days naman ata. Sabihin natin yan, no? Gawin natin 1 day na lang. 1 day na lang, mauubos na yung 2 years. Anong gagawin mo ngayon? 1 day na lang, ubos yung 2 years. Last day na, ibig sabihin, last day na nung ano. Kinabukasan, hindi ka na makakapag-file ng refund. So, ang ginawa ng isang magaling na abogado, nag-file siya ng administrative claim sa umaga. So, nasunod niya yung eksena, di ba? Dapat mag-file ka muna ng administrative claim. Pumunta siya sa BIR. Sa hapon, pumunta siya sa CTA. Nag-file siya doon ng claim, no, ng refund sa CTA. So, within 2 years, yes. Yun nga lang, umaga at hapon siya nag-file. Pwede ba yun? Sabi ng CTA, at umabot ba ito sa Supreme Court? Yes, allowed yun. Kasi hindi naman sinasabi na kailangan ni BIR mag-reply. Ang kailangan si taxpayer mag-file ng administrative claim and then after administrative claim, saka siya pumunta ng CTA. At hindi mo na pwedeng hintayin yung decision ni BIR. Bakit? Kasi mauubos na yung 2 years. So that's the proper remedy. Na mag-file ka ng admin claim first and then punta ka sa BIR. Punta ka sa BIR. Punta ka sa Court of Tax Appeals. Ngayon, ang nangyayari minsan, may denial, pero mga 10 days na lang, mauubos na yung 2 years. May nag-file ka, day 1. And then naghintay ka ng matagal na panahon. 10 days na lang before mag-expire yung 2 years, dun nag-decide ang BIR. Nakita mo, denied. Ang tagal kong hinintay, denied. Ngayon, ang sabi kasi sa Court of Tax Appeals, sa rules of the Court of Tax Appeals, pwede kang pumunta sa CTA within 30 days. That's the rule eh. Yun yung rule ng appeal. Pwede ka mag-appeal within 30 days. Ang tanong, mauubos na yung 2 years after 10 days. No? May 10 days ka na lang para maubos yung 2 years. Hihintayin mo ba yung 30 days? Mag-file ka ba sa end of 30 days? Or dapat makapag-file ka na at the end of the 10th day? Or yun yung within the 2-year period? So, ang sabi ng court, kung paubos na yung 2 years, dapat mag-file ka. Ang susundin mo ay yung within the 2-year period. Hindi mo pwedeng sundin yung procedural rule na 30 days. Magsusupersede yung provisions ng tax code na 2 years. 2 years dapat makapag-file ka na ng refund sa CTA. Which of the following cases may not be compromised? Criminal violation involving tax fraud. So dito naman, the Commissioner of Internal Revenue has not acted on the request. When is the last day to appeal to the Court of Tax Appeals? So titingnan natin dito yung payment. Okay? Yung 2 years na yan from the date of payment. Date tax erroneously paid January 2, 2020. Pero tingnan nyo yung ginawa niya. Noong January 10, doon siya nag-petition for request for refund. Okay? And then, nag-submit siya noong January 2022. Okay. So, assuming wala pa ring decision ang Court Commissioner of Internal Revenue, kailan siya dapat pumunta sa court? So, dapat before the expiration of the 2-year period. Kasi yung refund, 2 years na. So, January 2, 2022. Okay? So, ito naman. Nagbayad siya ng excessive tax. Magaling na taxpayer. And then, on December 20, 2021, she filed a written claim for refund. Her claim was denied. And she received the denial on March 30, 2022. Now, remember, yung 2 years, strict yung 2 years from the date of payment, and within 2 years, dapat nakapunta ka na sa CTA. Pero dapat unahin mo muna sa BIR. So, March 2023, 2022, malapit na yan sa malapit na mag-end yung 2 years. Mag-end yung 2 years more April 15, 2022. So she filed a motion for reconsideration with the BIR on March 31, 2022. And then na-receive lang niya yung decision on April 18, 2022, she received the final denial of the BIR. What will be the taxpayer's remedy? Wala nang remedy dito. Wala nang gamot. Bakit? Expired. Prescribed. Expired tuloy. Prescribed. Wala nang motion pa. Within the 2-year period is strictly, April 15, 2020 to April 15, 2022. Dapat dun siya nakapag-file. Kahit hindi pa nag-reply yung BIR, kahit walang sagot yung BIR, dumiretso ka na sa CPA. Okay? So wala na siyang remedy. Iyak na lang yan. The Commissioner of Internal Revenue has the authority to do all of the following except review the decision of the Court of Tax Appeals. Okay?